New Horizons has been out for a long time now, so it's completely understandable if you find yourself bored and not sure of what to do in the game each day. Or perhaps you're a new player who's just started and you're overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things you could possibly do. Well, there are tons of different goals and activities that you can do each and every day in Animal Crossing New Horizons, which make the experience so much more fun. Whether you've gotten bored of things getting stale for you, or you're looking for new activities to enjoy, this video is here to go over 30 things you can do every day in Animal Crossing New Horizons. I find giving yourself goals and having a routine like this can really help improve your enjoyment levels. So I'm going to be sharing things that I personally try to do every day when I'm actively playing the game. Leave a like on the video if you're excited to see what things you can do in the game, and let's jump right into this. Starting us off, check your Nook Mile Plus goals. Every day you'll get given some new Nook Mile Plus goals which you can go through, which will give you a really good idea of some of the activities that you should be doing each and every day. Whilst these can be very inspiring, they're also incredibly lucrative as they'll give you Nook Miles, which are one of the most important currencies in the game. You can exchange Nook Miles for a ton of things, of course, including things on this list which I'll get into later. So I highly recommend trying to do these goals each and every day. They'll range from very simple things that you'll probably find yourself doing anyways, to other things that might require a little bit more effort but will reward you with a little bit more. And you can keep getting more of them the more of these you complete, so it's a really endless activity. If you really don't fancy doing any of the ones that are currently on screen for you, then you can just wait until the next day for them to rotate, but I do recommend doing a few so you can see what other ones will pop up too. Either way, in terms of making a daily routine and doing daily activities, I find this feature very inspiring. Next, visit the Roost. My absolute favorite place in Animal Crossing happens to be the Roost. I love heading into here and seeing who is currently visiting, whether it's a villager or a unique special character, as you can get some really cool interactions with those characters in here. But most importantly, you can talk to Brewster and get a coffee. Now, whilst technically the coffee doesn't really do very much for you, it is a great way of completing some Nook Mile tasks which will require you to go to Brewster every day, and you can also get some rewards by the certain amount of times that you visit too. These rewards can only be received from Brewster by visiting a certain amount of times, so make sure you visit him every single day. By the end of it, he'll give you his own personal gyroid, which I think is one of the absolute coolest and cutest items in the entire game, so this is definitely worth doing. You'll also see pretty much different messages every single day when you get coffee too, which I find really fun. The Roost is one of the best places to get a lot of unique dialogue in the game, like I mentioned, whether that's through your interaction with Brewster or the other characters in the Roost, or perhaps even some you've invited via an amiibo. There's lots of great interactions and unique dialogue to be had in this building, as well as those goals of talking to him every day. Next, comb your beaches for a DIY recipe bottle. One will wash up here every single day, and this is a fantastic way of growing your recipe collection. I always try and do this, especially when I'm starting up a new file for the first time. Of course, if you have every DIY recipe, then this might not be too useful for you, but I'm willing to bet that the majority of people watching this video have not collected every DIY recipe. I certainly haven't yet. There are so many different types of cool items that you can get for crafting through this method, so yeah, it's something I highly recommend. And it's also cool to see the different letters from the villagers too, and the unique stationery that they'll use. I really enjoy that part of the game. I feel like it's one of those underappreciated details. But overall, it's just a great idea as it will increase your DIY recipe collection a lot, so you can start crafting more and more stuff. And of course, crafting is such a major and important part of the game, so this will probably be your absolute #1 way of getting DIY recipes every single day throughout the game, maybe aside from talking to your villagers in their homes and seeing what they have to craft as well. You can also find gyroid fragments washing up on the beach sometimes too, and if you didn't know, you can plant these in the ground to grow your very own gyroids, which you can then display around the island or in your home. I love the gyroids. I find the ones in New Horizons absolutely adorable, and I love the method of getting them as well. You're basically growing your own gyroid, which I find super cool. Now, once it's rained, you can actually dig up fully grown gyroids, which is interesting. This kind of carries on from past Animal Crossing games, so there's a few different ways of getting them. You can also find them on certain Kapp'n islands too, so you can really grow your collection quite quickly if you try different methods. I tend to find you'll find way more on Kapp'n Islands than you will on your own island ultimately, so that's the recommended method I would use for getting them, but I still highly recommend combing your beaches too so you can see if any fragments have washed up. Interestingly, this feature specifically was one of the very last added to New Horizons ever in a very small update. Speaking of Kapp'n boat tours, this is something else you should do every day. You'll only be able to do this once per day, so don't miss your opportunity. Kapp'n Islands are honestly really great. You can find so many unique ones with all kinds of unique and special resources on them, including some really rare resources like star fragments if you get incredibly lucky. I also really like the ones that have vines on them too. I find these ones look so cool. And vines are super useful for climbing up cliffs, as well as a great crafting material too. I also love how you can see Kapp'n Islands in different seasons too. It just allows you to escape from the monotony of each day in New Horizons. Say you're stuck in a particular season you don't really like at the moment, then a Kapp'n Island could open you up to a completely different season that makes the game feel that much more interesting. You can also get some really cool DIY recipes too when the island season is different, so it's highly recommended that you go on a Kapp'n Island tour each day, using up that 1000 Nook miles, which is 100% worth it. Speaking of those DIY bottles, make sure you get the DIY bottle on the Kapp'n Island every day too. These ones can often contain food recipes which you can cook, and those can be turned into great items that you can display in your home or around the island, or you can eat for energy, which is really useful. Like I said earlier as well, if you go to an island that has a specific season on it, then you might find the DIY recipe will have a rare seasonal item, which can honestly be really tricky to get. Even I don't have all of these yet. So that's something I really enjoy about going to these Kapp'n Islands. It's like you're finding something new every single time, and the DIY recipes that you get here are no exception, especially as there are some really rare ones. Now, if you've been playing Animal Crossing for a long time, one of the main features is donating things to the museum, so make sure each and every day that you find and dig up all 4 fossils. You can then of course donate these to the museum, or if your museum is already complete or you find a duplicate, you could then sell these on for a pretty decent profit. This is an absolutely classic daily Animal Crossing activity, and if you're still trying to complete your museum, then this is definitely something you'll want to prioritize. Remember, you can find 4 of them each and every day, so I recommend searching your island high and low so you can get all of them and you don't miss out on one. Moving on to Nook's Cranny, you should check to see what the hot item is on the board outside of Nook's Cranny every day. This is a really great way of making some extra bells in New Horizons. Some of these hot items can honestly sell for a lot, so it's definitely recommended that if you need more bells, this is something you prioritize doing. It's always really cool when the hot item is something that is incredibly easy to craft, as you can really double your profits. This is definitely an underrated way of making money in New Horizons and a great early game method of doing so. Next, you should head inside of Nook's Cranny and see what stock they currently have. They will be selling different items each and every day, and of course if you've upgraded Nook's Cranny, then they'll be selling even more. Sometimes they'll even be selling limited time event items and seasonal items too. There are so many possible items you can find here that you simply cannot craft. So it's really important that if you want to try and complete your catalog, or at least find lots of cool items to decorate with, that you check Nook's Cranny each and every day. Speaking of checking things in Nook's Cranny, you should also talk to the twins so you can see what the current turnip prices are. Unless of course it's a Sunday like when I was recording this, in which case it's a little bit useless. Turnip trading is a really important part of making money in New Horizons. I'm not going to go too in depth about it here, just in case you already know about it, as I imagine a lot of players do, but basically you can see how much turnips are selling for, and if you bought them for less with Daisy May, then you can make a profit. If you have a really high turnip price, then you could even invite people over to your island and let them sell on your island so you can help them make a lot of money too. This is by far the best way of making money in New Horizons, so it's definitely recommended that you check your turnip prices frequently if you need those bells. Moving on to another shop now, you should check the Able Sisters stock each and every day. If you're a fan of decorating your own character and dressing them up, then the Able Sisters is your #1 spot to be. There'll be lots of cool looks in here for different seasons and such, especially on the mannequins. You can see what is currently really trendy for this season. And you could also head into the dressing room as well to see more color variants too that aren't on display. So that is another tip I would definitely recommend if you want to make sure you don't miss a single item which is currently for sale this day in the Able Sisters. Whilst you're here, you should make sure you talk to Sable if you haven't already. You can gain her friendship and get some really cool dialogue with her. Not only that, but the more you talk to her, she'll actually unlock special patterns that you can use to customize your furniture with. That's the only way of unlocking these patterns in the game, so you definitely have to make sure you're earning Sable's friendship. But more than anything, I just love doing this because Sable is definitely one of the best and most detailed characters in all of Animal Crossing, so it's really worth making friends with her and learning her lore. I love the backstory to the Able sisters. Whilst you're here, you should also browse the custom designs portal to see if any new designs have been added. Now, whilst there's no way of searching by new or anything like that, you can search in specific words for things you're looking for and see if any new designs have popped up. I love filling my island with all kinds of really cool designs that incredibly talented people have made, so this is something that I try and do every single day if I'm looking for new designs. You never know exactly what might have just popped up. Heading over to Resident Services, you should check the Bulletin Board to see what announcements are currently available. They'll let you know about upcoming events and birthdays and such, so this is a great way of staying tuned to everything that is going on your island. Of course, you can write in here yourself if you've got any thoughts you want to save down, so that's something else useful you could do every single day. You could even turn it into a little diary as well, which might be a neat idea if you want to record your progress. Whilst you're here, why not do some group stretching? You can actually get some Nook miles for doing group stretching a certain amount of times, as well as unlock some special items and reactions that you can only get through group stretching a certain amount of times. Even I haven't unlocked the special reactions yet, as I believe you need to do it a total of 30 times. And I don't always feel motivated to do this, but I'm gonna change. This is definitely something you should try and do every day, as these unlocks are honestly really cool. And like I mentioned with the Roost one earlier in this video, you can only get them through doing this, so that is something you should definitely try and do. Especially for those reactions, that's a really important one. You don't want to miss out on any of the reactions that you can get in the game, and all of these ones are really unique and kind of based on the workouts that you actually do in group stretching, which is a really neat little detail in my opinion. Now, a more simple one, something that I imagine a lot of players are doing but still important, is shake the trees around your island. You never know what you might find. You can find items in the trees, you can find bells, and sometimes you can even find wasps as well. Either way, it's definitely worth it to shake the trees and see exactly what you can find. Of course, you can do this on mystery tour islands as well, and get some really unique and interesting things that you might have literally never expected to see. You generally won't get many bells through doing this, so I wouldn't try and use that as a method for making money, but in terms of getting some really cool random items, yeah, I found some incredibly cool things in the trees of my island, so you should try it out too. Speaking of nature, make sure to tend to your crops. If you planted lots of crops around your island, then what you'll want to do is harvest them when they're ready to be harvested, and then water the crops every day. The more you water them, the higher yield you will get once you harvest them. So if you want to try and make a lot of money and just get a lot of crops in general, you'll want to make sure you're tending to them each and every day. Crops are one of the best ways of making money in the game, I find, without doing turnips, so this is something I really like, and I have a lot of them on my island. Your watering can come in handy in so many ways, like of course watering the flowers every day, but watering your crops is just as important in my opinion. Back to the shops, make sure you check Harv's Island. Once you've unlocked the expanded Harv's Island, you can see exactly what stock these vendors have. Most of the vendors will get something new every single day, and they'll have different items than what you might find on the island generally. Harv's Island is honestly so much fun. I love going here, I especially love talking to Leaf. It's great to have permanent access to him and not have to worry about when he'll visit your island. The same for Red too, honestly, but his stock won't change every day like the rest. You'll need to actually start to buy stuff from him if you want to see it change out. Definitely worth doing in my opinion though. You should also get your fortune taken here. Luck in Animal Crossing New Horizons is a very expansive thing and can definitely change how your day plays, and it won't actually kick in until you've gotten your fortune read by Katrina. Now of course your luck could be something negative, but it could also be something really good, and then you might find yourself getting extra bells, or better luck with your items around the island, maybe even excess energy. Luck is such a cool feature, so I highly recommend starting off your day actually by talking to Katrina so you can get the luck in and see exactly what this might do to improve your day. You can also talk to Katrina to check your friendship with the different villagers around your island. This will give you a good insight to your friendship with your villagers. Of course, if you've had them for a really long time, you're probably already besties and you know that, but for villagers that have just moved in, this can be a great way to see how much you're progressing in terms of their friendship. Katrina has so many cool features, honestly. I love the luck system in New Horizons, and I love this friendship checker too. Next, go on a Nook Mile tour. These Nook Mile tour islands are so much fun and you can get so many good resources there. Generally, I would say that's what they're best for. You can get extra crafting materials, of course, find lots of different rocks. And almost every island is going to be different. Some even have special gimmicks where you can find a ton of bells. Not to mention that if you've got a free slot on your island, you can even find villagers here. People often use these to villager hunt. So really, a lot is being offered to you with your Nook Mile ticket. And even better, as long as you've got the Nook Mile tickets, you can really do as many of these as you want in one single day. Unfortunately, you will have to keep talking to the dodos again and again if you want to do it, which can be frustrating, but it's worth it in my opinion for all you can get from these islands. Now, the next set of tips will be for those of you who have the Happy in Paradise DLC. It's really important to make sure you visit the archipelago every day and see what villagers are currently visiting. These villagers will have their own different themes which you can use to design their houses with. And it's just really cool in general seeing such a variety of villagers pop up on the beach, as of course you're used to seeing the same villagers again and again on your own island. You'll of course get Poki rewards by doing these designs. And designing is of course the main feature of Happy Home Paradise, so it's worth your time. Now, while walking around the beach, you might actually be able to find a DIY recipe bottle, and these ones are really cool as they'll often contain very rare recipes that are related to some of the crafting materials you can find here on the archipelago. Often things like the glowing moss recipes and the vine and ruin recipes, which are some of the absolute best in the entire game. I also find that these contain cooking recipes a fair amount, so that's another great helpful thing. This is another fantastic way of increasing your DIY recipe collection every single day, so this is really important to do. Now, if you've built the restaurant, you can head into the back and speak to the head chef, and they'll actually give you a cooking recipe every day. This is by far the best way of getting cooking recipes in New Horizons. You can get so many different ones through this method. I'm still missing a lot of the cooking recipes, so I make sure to head into here every day so I can get new ones. I really love this feature and it just makes this building so much more beneficial. Now, if you've designed the school, you can head into there and speak to the head teacher and get a free Plumeria Start every day. Yeah, there are lots of freebies that you can get each and every single day in New Horizons if you have Happy in Paradise. That's why I highly recommend getting this DLC because you do get a lot from it honestly, especially in terms of daily things. If you've designed the hospital, then you can see the doctor each and every day, and once you get an appointment with the doctor and they see what's wrong with you, they'll provide you with an item that you can wear. These are usually medical type items like eye patches and such, and I feel like you can only get them from this hospital. If you can get them through other methods, then it's definitely a lot harder. It's honestly pretty funny the idea of being seen by a doctor villager in New Horizons. I think that's why I enjoy doing this so much. You can also gather a lot of exclusive resources every day on the archipelago, things like glowing moss items and the vines. You'll need these if you want to craft some of the recipes that I mentioned earlier, not to mention the fact that you can put the vines up on your own island and use them to scale cliffs, which is an incredibly useful feature. Once you've designed all the different shops, you can check out their stock each and every day to see what they have available. This will rotate each day like the shops do on your own island, so it's a great way of getting some really unique items, including food items too, which is important for gathering energy. You should also check in on Wardell's shop. Now, whilst the one that you unlock from him later, which allows you to effectively buy every single item from a list, is probably a bit more useful, you never know, he might be selling some cool items in here that you like the look of. After all, they can come in lots of different color variants and such, so you might see something here that you wouldn't have even expected to buy otherwise. And this is of course your top use for the Poki that you'll be collecting. Speaking of Poki, you can check the machine in here to see the exchange rate, and you can choose whether you want to exchange Poki for bells or the other way around. The exchange rate will change each and every day. Sometimes it might be really good, sometimes it might be really bad, but generally I do not recommend turning your Poki into bells. Poki is a much more valuable currency than bells are. It's way easier to get yourself a ton of bells than it is Poki, so this isn't something I'd recommend doing, but hey, maybe turning your bells into Poki, that could actually be pretty useful. So yeah, these are 30 things that you can do every day in New Horizons. This is of course not an exhaustive list, there are plenty of other activities that you can do as well, so I'd love for you to comment some of the things that you do each and every day in the comment section below. I'd really love to hear, and it can help inspire other players. If you made it through to the end, be sure to comment Bob's Gang so I know you did. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on notifications for more.